Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beat the Clock podcast. My name is Rubio-Garcia, and I am here to help you grow. Through the many timed interviews I'll be having, all guests will answer 4 time-specific questions. By answering these questions honestly, we hope to show you how each moment connects to the next. Whether they are entrepreneurs or thought leaders, all are invited to sit down, chat with me, and show you a realistic depiction of success. By doing so, we hope to change your mind and empower you to beat the clock. Hello, everybody. My name is Rubio-Garcia, and I am here to help you grow. Some people call me the Victorious MRG, and that is because I've had a lot of success in my life. I think people that know me know I'm a very ambitious, kind of aggressive person when it comes to my goals. And now I want to kind of plant that same seed in my clients. So before we start and introduce today's guest, I do want to say that I am taking on 10 clients for life coaching. I have a 90-day transformation program that I am starting up. So if you want to do that, DM me, email me, whatever you got to do to get a hold of me. I am all ears. Additionally, if you're not quite ready for that yet, I did set up a free 5-day mindset challenge to kind of help you with some visualization and confidence techniques. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. And so I'm saying all this because I'm talking to somebody today who is very much in that same spirit of empowerment. And before we jump into her interview, I want to do the BTC affirmations. Say them with me. Here we go. Number 1, I trust myself. So here you're saying that it's okay to listen to what you really want and to act on it. Number 2, my time is valuable. So when you learn to listen to yourself a little more intentionally, you are going to act more intentionally because they have a compound interest. And number 3, I can control how I use my time today. So maybe you didn't control anything about your life before, but today you can reclaim your power and compound your way to success. So, like I mentioned, I'm talking to somebody who is all about empowering others. She is someone who even got a name, Sunshine. I didn't know this until I interviewed her because of her radiance. So I can definitely affirm that after talking to her. Her name is Lynda Sunshine West. She is the creator of the Women Action Takers brand. She is also the founder and president of the Giving Angels, a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to globally eradicate homelessness once and for all. And she resides in Alpine, California, happily married. And she was even the executive producer of a movie. She's done a lot, and she's done it a little bit later on in life, which is the very important point that I want to make. So if you're someone who's listened here and you love all this content, but you're not quite sure if you've, peaked or whatever, I don't even want to say it like that. But if you're somebody who feels like age is a factor, listen to Lynda Sunshine West. And I guarantee you, your mind is going to change. So let's see if she beats the clock. And the clock starts now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beat the Clock. I am here with collaboration strategist Lynda Sunshine West. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm super excited about this because I've never been on a podcast where they time the questions. So I'm interested to see how this turns out, and I'll make sure I stay to the time.
Yeah. And recently, actually, we had somebody who they were the first one since I did this format change that did 4-0 because we kind of see the scoreboard at the end, so to speak.
Okay.
And he was the first one. He was really like strategizing for this. So it was pretty funny how seriously he took it. But it was also like a lesson in how to reverse engineer success. So it was really cool. People really have a good time with it. So something that I want to do before we jump into the questions, Lynda, is like a little surprise that I throw at the guests. Some have watched the show, so it's cool. Others are like, on the spot, and that's always nice. So what I like to do is I like to kind of research you a little bit and kind of see who you are at your core. And again, I can only go by what you're presenting online. So when we remove the labels like, entrepreneur, or I interviewed a choreographer, stuff like that, who are they without that occupational label? And for me, you are an insatiable elevator, Lynda. And I just feel like from our conversations, from your profiles, everything, like you just have this relentless hunger to really find the best in yourself and the people around you. Would you say that's accurate?
100%. And it's interesting is I wasn't always that way. This is more recent within the last 6 years after I worked with a life coach who helped me to kind of like tap into who am I, what's my value on this planet, and what's my purpose. So it's, yeah, definitely. And thanks. That's so cool that my profile is reflective of who I truly am, because that's what I want. I want it to be reflective of who I walk around in as, no matter where I am.
Yeah. And whenever you can communicate that with the world, I feel like everybody naturally wants to elevate. So I feel like based off of what I'm seeing, and I'm sure once we finish our conversation, I'm going to agree even more, but that's what you communicate. Somebody who just has high expectations, who will work at it, and who wants others to kind of have that same hunger and really kind of feel what you're feeling.
Insatiable. What did you say? Insatiable.
Elevator.
Elevator. Okay. I love that. I'm going to write that down really quick. So awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And so again, we talked because we were connected through a potted interview colleague, I guess, that you had, or a friend. And I'm so happy because once people hear your story, it's going to be super cool. So we're going to jump into the first question. And
Okay.
this is, I'm throwing up a little thing for you because that'll tell you that I'm going to start timing. So who were you? That's the first question we always like to ask.
Who was I? I was, well, first of all, at age 5, who I was back then
Mm-hmm.
morphed into something else. At age 5, I ran away and I was gone for an entire week.
Wow.
Now, I only ran away to the neighbor's house, but at 5 years old, you run away, right? I ran away because it was a very abusive, volatile, alcoholic household. My dad was extremely abusive, and I was gone for a week. So imagine you're 5 years old, or your child is 5 years old and is gone, and you don't come to get them.
Yeah.
So what message are you sending to the child? Well, at this 5-year-old, the message I heard loud and clear was, I was right. They don't like me. I was right. They don't want me around. I was right. They don't love me. That was the message I heard at 5 years old. So after a week, now I didn't know this until many, many years later when my mom told me, but after a week, my mom called the neighbor and said, okay, she's been gone long enough. You can send her home. So my parents knew I was there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, all intents and purposes, this 5-year-old didn't know my parents knew I was there. So, I came home and I came home terrified of my dad, terrified of what's going to happen. And so I came home with my head down and my tail between my legs, and literally with my head down. I used to walk around looking at the ground. Like I would never look anybody in the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was because of the fear from my dad, right? Because my dad's eyes, like I always imagined my dad as being a monster. Like he was a monster in my life. People think about monsters in the closet, monsters under the bed. Mine was the monster around our house every time he was around. And so literally I would walk around looking at the ground. Yeah, I found money sometimes, which was cool, but I never looked in anybody's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until, gosh, I want to say I was probably in my 40s or something that I actually started to glance at people's eyes. Like I wouldn't
Wow.
like look at you and have a conversation visually looking you in the eyes until after, well, I'll share that part later because we're going to get into that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who was I? I was a band nerd. I started playing flute when I was in second grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though my dad was very abusive, like now that I'm much older, I look back and I'm going through this actually gratitude process right now to have gratitude for who my dad was, the good parts of him. So I've already forgiven him, for all the things he did. But now I'm going through this process of seeing him not as a monster, but seeing him as a human being with compassion and caring, so that's what I'm doing. Like, that's one of the things I'm doing right now. I
Mm-hmm.
say that because, he was abusive, yet we did all these fun things. Like he took us to Disneyland. We traveled, went to Texas a lot to visit my grandparents, went to Las Vegas. Those weren't really good times as a kid because, they would gamble while we would sit in a corner waiting for them to bring us money,
Mm-hmm.
but, there I was, second grade, I started playing flute. And then I played flute for many years until about high school when I started playing different instruments as well, like French horn, tuba, trombone, saxophone, oboe. Like I wanted to learn all these different instruments. So I'm
Yeah, and
very
you went
musically
around
inclined.
like woodwind and brass. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Tuba was hard. And tuba was way harder than any other instrument I played, but I loved it. I love, playing music, but not only that, of course, I love the audience's applause because I never felt good at home, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt great when I was out there playing because, I always played first chair. So I got to have all these solos and like, showing off times, right? I got to show off, show how good I was at something. And I got accolades outside of my household. So I was always searching for those accolades from other people. Like I needed other people to validate me, who I am and how good I was at things. So I'll share later how I've turned myself into my own cheerleader instead of my own worst enemy. And so it's really just, as far as childhood goes, the band times, I got to say that music, and it's sad that in a lot of the schools, music has kind of gone to the wayside because music changed my whole like being of who I am. It gave me that identity. It
Yeah.
gave me that ability to see that I have a gift. And for me, the only gift I knew I even had was music. That was it. I never knew I had any other gifts until much later in life. But really um, that's probably one of the biggest things about me. Like, who was I? I'm a great mom. I used to say I was a terrible mom, but my kids told me I was a great mom. So, okay, I'll take that, but, mom, a husband, I'm a wife, I have an amazing husband. We've been together for almost 30, well, we've been together for 32 years. It's just 32
Wow.
years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. And I have 4 grandkids. So, I have a lot of stuff going on. I have my own business and it's been an interesting journey for sure. Everything that I've been up to, and I'm excited for what's to come. I don't know what's to come, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really happy. We have about 3 minutes left. I'm really happy that you got so personal about that and how you used to view your dad because I feel like I just turned 30. So I went through a program through my church that really helped me out. And I wouldn't, I don't know if I would call my dad a monster, but definitely like he was always the antagonist in my life. And I felt like any kind of joy that I had, he kind of robbed me of it. But then there was also this weird thing, like you're saying, where in front of people, he was very personable and he would really be a good provider. So now I guess as we age, we start seeing our parents as people. When we're young, we see them as everything and we want to have this pedestal of perfection for them. And then once we get older, we realize that, maybe whatever they did to us is just maybe unresolved trauma in their lives or maybe some sort of resentment or regret. And that's not to justify it, but it really does have a profound effect. And I don't know that a lot of people want to air that out loud. So I really appreciate that because I'm pretty good about airing it out. And then I feel like sometimes people feel uncomfortable about that, but only because they're uncomfortable with their own stuff. Would you say that being that way and so vulnerable has helped you in your life?
Big time. It really has because the vulnerability and like first addressing, like my dad, he always had this scowl on his face, like his forehead, his brow was always like he just always looked like he was angry. And
Mm-hmm.
so that right there in itself is kind of, and you know what? He might not even have had that scowl. That might
Yeah.
have just been what I saw because I literally did see that monster, right? And so really it was like, just like you said, the vulnerability. I remember when I found out my sister had cancer, she was 57 years old, which I'm 57 now. So I'm the same age
Mm-hmm.
as my sister when I found out she had cancer. So I went and I did this. I was doing a lot of Facebook Lives. I've done like over 4,000 Facebook Lives. So I was doing them there was a reason why I was doing so many.
Mm-hmm.
But I went and I said, I'm going to do a Facebook Live about this. Just let people know what's going on. I just found out about my sister having cancer and I was in my car and I did this video and I started crying and people, oh my gosh, the outpouring of support. Like I get emotional just thinking about it because the outpouring of support, when we share our vulnerabilities, people can relate to us. And I like to call them relation points.
Right.
So it's a point of relationship, right? So these points create these relationships. So every time I mention something in my past that was not too good or something in my past that was mentioning the music and all this, those are points that some people are going to relate to me. Anybody else out there that played flute is going to be like, oh, I played flute too, right? It's a relation point. And that's a starting point to a relationship. Oh, time's up. Okay, so yeah, so really vulnerability, and I'll share one quick quote that I created through my vulnerability sharing, and
Mm-hmm.
that is to be brave and share your weaknesses. For in your weaknesses, others see your strengths.
Right, because it takes a lot of strength to show the cracks in your life.
It does.
Everybody, especially with social media, like we're almost encouraged to kind of become our own little PR agents and just post
Yeah.
the right stuff. And so the people that are thriving now are actually the people that are they're vulnerable. And so that's actually the first title of my first episode. I put a heart that's well is a heart that tells. And so when you're saying all this stuff, I don't see you anymore as like, oh, like I just see it like, wow, there's so much power in that she's owning it, that she's not ashamed of it, that's the first thing she opens up with, you know. And I think that people need to hear that, because sometimes we're so scared of sharing, and that's actually the thing that's going to hook us to a person. And like you're saying, it's going to form that
Yeah.
relationship and deepen it in a way that is more authentic and more sustainable than just kind of curating your personality.
Yeah, and I want to say something on that because I think this is a really important point, is that when we are scared to share, it's really a point of we have some sort of embarrassment
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves.
Right.
So if we're embarrassed about ourselves, shouldn't we change that instead
Exactly.
of hiding it? You
Yeah,
know?
but so many people are scared, like, to, like I said, I didn't say those reactions like, oh, I was gonna like feel sorry for you. I'm just saying that's what people expect. Like when you share that part of yourself or any kind of emotional stuff, they think people are gonna react like that. But I had the
Oh,
totally opposite
right, right.
reaction. So yeah, I love that
Yeah.
you started that way.
And choose your people you hang out with,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're going to jump into question number two. So you already kind of touched on that, but now we get to extend it. So who are you now? What do you do? What takes up a lot of your time, and how do you handle all of it?
Oh man, this is a great question because so it was 6 years ago. First of all, I worked in the corporate world for 36 years. I started working when I was 16. I worked at the local county fair here in San Diego, the Del Mar Fair, it was called at the time. They changed the name of it. But I worked there, and my very, very first job, so this is like where I was then, there's a reason for sharing this. So
Mhm.
my very, very first job was a cotton candy slinger. Like I did the cotton candy machine by day, and then I scooped poop by night. So I
Wow.
actually had two jobs on my first job. It's the first time I had started working.
Mhm.
And that started me on this path of working in the corporate world, and I had 49 jobs by the
Wow.
time I was 51. So I had almost the same number of jobs as my age. And the last job I had, I had worked in the legal field. I had moved into the legal field 20 years prior. So at age 31, I moved into the legal field, became a legal secretary. And through that 20 years, I had 7 legal jobs. And my very last legal job was working for a judge in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So in my line of work, I made it.
Mhm.
Like I climbed that ladder, and I climbed it to the very, very top rung because I worked for the number 2 judge in the entire state of California. So really, I made it. And the only reason I didn't work for the number 1 is because he was up in Sacramento, and I was not going to move up to Sacramento. But I was there for about 13, 14 months. And I was driving to work one day, and in that traffic that I had sat in for decades, just frustrated with what I was doing, not enjoying my job at all. Like my job was so boring. It was just extremely boring. So every day I was driving to my personal prison that I built for myself. You
Wow.
know, I I built that because I knew what I wanted, and I climbed until I got there. And here I was sitting in this prison. I was
And
just
how
so
long was your commute?
my commute, well, literally with no traffic,
Mhm.
15 minutes,
Mhm.
with traffic, an hour and 15 minutes.
So it
So,
could be anywhere between 30 minutes to 3 hours of a commute for a job that you didn't like.
yep.
And that's a very powerful way of putting that, a personal prison. Because, yeah, sometimes we get to these places we think we want, and then once we're there, we're like, what did I get myself into, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So then at that point, right, it's what do you do with that? What do
Mm-hmm.
you do with that? So I was driving to work and I was in the traffic and I hated traffic. I used to be the person you're seeing me now on Facebook, and who I am now is a completely different person than I was 6 years ago. Because at that time I was unhappy. Like the only thing I was really happy in my life was my marriage. Like my husband and I love each other, and we love each other more and more and more, which is, I know it's like very rare, but I was just hating what I was doing. So I was driving to work and I was in that traffic and I said, I don't understand this. Like, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of me driving to this job? What's the purpose of this planet? Like I started asking like bigger, like the questions got bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here? Like there's no reason for me to be here. I have zero value on this planet. Like that's how I was literally thinking about myself. So as I was angry driving to work as a regular basis every day, and I got to work that day and I got onto Facebook and I saw this post from this woman.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm a life coach. I took some time off and I'm getting back into it. I'm looking for 5 women who want to change their life. Who wants in? And I was like, I want in. I don't know you, but I want to change my life. I was just talking about that to myself. What's my purpose? Why am I even here? There's no value for me. And so then I ended up reaching out to her and I started working with her as my life coach. And that was in 2014. So from August of 2014 to November of 2014, I worked with her on a weekly basis. And I got to tell you, every week I hated her because she asked me real questions,
Yeah.
real tough questions. And I'm a really good student. So I did all of my homework, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
so glad I did, because every week I came back and I just loved her until she asked me another question. So it's like 5 months of love, hate, love, hate, love, hate, like
Yeah.
this. And by the end of the 5 months, it was November, it was like right around Thanksgiving time, November 2014. So then I had December without her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things weren't, now I was shifting, like my whole mentality was shifting so fast. And I knew this because on a weekly basis, people would say, oh my God, you're so different this week than you were last week. So I heard from other people, because I'm living it, so I don't really recognize it that much, but other
Yeah.
people were saying it. And so this shift was fast and furious, and I got addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
Addicted to the questions she was asking me, addicted to the changes, to becoming this positive person, raising my own, my own vibration, if you will, on this planet, right? So that I can participate in a better way. Well, so December without her, I didn't make very many changes, but I still made some changes. So
Mm-hmm.
January 1st of 2015, I woke up that morning. I was like, wow, my whole life is different. I want to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to keep going? I know what, I got a lot of fears. I'm going to face a fear every single day this year. I'm going to totally keep going on this. Like this is going to be a perpetual motion of improvement, of growth, right? So this is what I'm saying to myself. So it's January 1st, 2015. I started. The first question I asked myself every single morning when I woke up for that entire year was, what scares me? I'd wake up, what scares me? And I would lay there and just wait until the answer came. And so my commitment to myself was, whatever that answer was, I had to face that fear that day. That was my
Yay.
commitment.
That's awesome.
It really was, oh my gosh, talk about change. So every day I was facing something that scared me. I ended up writing a book about it called The Year of Fears. And, I talk about the lessons that I learned during that year. But I met so many incredible people. I stepped into places that I never would have before because of fear. And one of those things was stepping into meeting one of my mentors. Like I have lots of mentors, but this one in particular has been instrumental in my change, my continued change. Is I met him because my life coach was like, hey, you got to go to this event. And it was $3,000 event. And I was like, I'm not paying that kind of money to go to an event. And
Mm-hmm.
she looked me square in the eye and she said, you don't understand. You have to be there. And I was like, okay, if my life coach says you got to do it, you got it. Like I learned so much from her, so I wasn't going to let the money stop me. So I went, and that was a pivotal change in my whole direction of my whole life. And I had no idea going into it what it was going to mean for me or what it was going to do for me. But since then, like I've now become like I'm a 6 times best-selling author. I'm writing collaboration books, inviting people to be in my books. I've interviewed stars on the red carpet like Wesley Snipes, Jack Canfield, Les Brown, and I've just interviewed some really amazing people on the red carpet. I've interviewed the president of Mexico in his presidential suite, but that was all because of that connection that I made to my mentor in
Mm-hmm.
2015 while I was facing a fear every day. I ended up becoming an executive producer of a film called Wishman, which is the story of the creation of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And that
Wow.
was because of the connections I made from that one person, because my life coach looked at me and said, "You don't understand. You have to be there." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay." And I
Yeah.
decided to go ahead and make my changes in my life. So, I become a collaboration strategist is who I am today, bringing people together to share their voices with the world through my books, through my summits, through my interviews, through podcasts, all these different avenues to help you to share your voice with the world.
Right. I mean, what a story, man. And, some people, we were talking about that. Some people see that many jobs on a person's resume and they think that that's a problem. But I think for you, Lynda, it was just about finding your way, right? And like you're saying, you were trying to find that purpose fulfilling role, and you thought maybe in the legal field that was going to be the way, and you climbed all the way up. And then when you ascend that high, a lot of people will just stay there because they're too scared to start over again. And I feel like you made all the right steps. And I feel like, when you're willing to humble yourself and kind of start over again like that, like you're saying, you have no idea what's in store for you. You have no idea the added benefits or substance that you add to your life. And it's really cool that you say that a life coach was that influential, because I'm going to start up a 90-day coaching program. So,
Oh,
um,
cool.
yeah. And then I'm also, recently I wrote a book called Breakthrough Fear, and I made fear such the focal point because fear is the only thing ever stopping people, I think. Fear of failing, fear of being judged, fear of looking mediocre or like a beginner. It's just fear, fear, fear,
Mm-hmm.
fear. And if you, like you're saying, you can really commit to conquering your fears, I think you're gonna find a version of yourself that you didn't even know you were capable of.
Yeah, and you'll continue. I like to call it enlarging the size of your comfort zone. Like we talk about stepping out of your comfort zone. Like I don't want to step out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to enlarge the size of it. So every time I faced a fear, every single day, just like a balloon, right? A balloon, when you blow it up one time, it's a little tight and then it retracts. And then the next time you blow it up, it expands. So every day I expanded the size of my comfort zone. And so what that did is that made it easier for me to not only recognize fear now, so now I can quickly be like, oh, that's fear. Okay, I'll do it. So now I just like step through it. It doesn't even debilitate me anymore because of that experience that I went through.
Yeah. And like, I don't know about you, but I invested recently in a business coach to get the marketing side down for the coaching. And that was a big expense for me. It was like super out of my price range, kind of close to yours for the event. And so when it's your first time kind of doing that bigger ticket item or a bigger ticket price tag, it's terrifying, right? And you feel
Yeah.
like there's so much expectations. This has to meet the value that I'm paying. And once you pay it and once you go to these kinds of events, I feel like, or once you get exposed to these kind of people, I feel like you're not, like when you look at something that's like $500, of course it's $500, right? Like you're saying, it doesn't feel that bad anymore because you've already taken such an investment in yourself that it's like, what's a little $500 to my personal development? And your whole, I guess, calibration or measurement of what's risky changes.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because sometimes people think, oh, it costs a lot of money. And they're not looking at the back end of it, like the results that they're going to get, because it's the results you're going to get. And oftentimes the results you get are not financial. So like my life coach, she totally helped me to change my whole life of who I am. You cannot put a price tag on that.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I didn't generate the money back from the money I spent or invested on hiring her, what I gained was my life.
That's
You
powerful.
Yeah, you can't put a dollar amount. There's just some things that we invest in that we're not going to make our money back, but we might make our money back in different ways. So like with working with her, I'm doing what I'm doing today
Mm-hmm.
because of, working with her. Like I'm doing what I'm doing today, which is generating revenue for me. So I could say if it wasn't for my life coach, I wouldn't be making the money I'm making.
Yeah. And plus, like, I feel like, at least for me, like maybe I'm not going to do the way I expect with the marketing side of it, and the whole push and the whole launch is not going to work out. But now I know everything I have to do, and I can shift it to digital products, to courses in the meantime, while I build up, some beta clients or something like that. So like you're saying, we can't always measure that kind of cost. And I think that's why people don't know how to use their money, to be honest. They don't know how to see value versus like
Yes.
tangible benefits.
Yep. Totally. 100%.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want me to give you time reminders for the next two. That way we can even out the score. But
Okay.
I just love what you're saying. So that's why I try not to butt in. It's some good stuff. So number three, who will you be in the future?
Oh gosh. I really don't know. There we go. I beat the time. No, it's the thing is that I'm ever evolving.
Hmm.
And it's what's kind of interesting is, you mentioned it's like the 49 jobs, how some people would see that as a bad thing, a negative or what have you. And as I looked back on my life, I realized the reason I had had so many jobs, it all stemmed back from when I was 5 years old and I ran away.
Yeah.
I was always running away from things.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until again that, my life coach, that was that really big change in my life, right? That she helped me to learn how to run two things. So
Oh,
this
that
ever
gave me
evolved.
chills.
Oh, awesome. I love it.
That's really powerful.
Because the thing is that when we look at our lives and what we're doing, who we are, what we are, like what we're all about, are we living our lives on purpose or on accident? Because we hear this word purpose thrown, like, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? We hear it thrown around all the time. And I
Hmm.
made this realization that you can know your purpose, but not live your purpose.
That's good.
And when you finally step into living your purpose on a daily basis, on a regular, consistent basis, your life will change because you're now, like for me, I believe in God, right? So I'm living my God-given purpose.
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure that out, by the way. It took me a couple of years.
Hmm.
So who will I be in the future? I don't really know, but I do know this, that I'll be living my purpose. I do know that every day I meet new people because, even though we're in COVID times, I'm still meeting people all the time because I do my own networking events. I invite people to come into my world all the time. So every day I'm meeting somebody new, which means I'm tapping into new knowledge from other people. And what I knew yesterday is different than what I know today already. It's only 8:30 in the morning here in San Diego, but I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. We talked about that earlier,
Yeah.
but I wake up at 4:30, so I'm already 4 hours into my day. I learned so much just this morning because I spend the first couple hours of my morning, doing like, self-reflection and working on my business. And so the amount of things I learned already this morning have already stretched my mind
Hmm.
into the future that I didn't know about yesterday.
Yeah. Would you say that your life coach helped you with this morning routine, or you kind of formed that on your own?
I formed that on my own, and this was just like 5 months ago. I made a conscious decision. I was like a, what do you call it, a night owl
Hmm.
for my whole life. Like I remember in junior high school, I would be up late starting my homework at about 11:30 at night. And my mom and dad, my dad called me Lindy, you got to go to bed. I haven't done my homework yet. you know, well, do your homework earlier. Well, I haven't done it. So I would stay up and like watch the news while I was doing my homework, watching the news. I don't know. I was a junior high school kid watching the news. I don't know, a little weirdo, right? I know
No.
there's some other weirdos out there that probably did it too. We're definitely not the norm. So, and you know what? That's why I like the today, like the new normal is the crazy people are the new normal. Right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yay, I'm finally normal because I'm crazy. So I was always a night owl,
Hmm.
always. junior high school, all my working life, I would stay up till 1, 2 in the morning, even when I had jobs, and I would get up at like 6:30 in the morning and go to work. And then I would, just play that over and over and over again. So 5 months ago, I made a conscious decision. I said, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I am going to become an early bird. So here's an interesting thing, right? 6 months ago, if you had asked me the question, who are you going to be later, like in 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
And I had said, I will never be an early bird. Because I used to always say that. I used to say, I don't know how you get up at 4:30 in the morning. Like, how's that possible? Like, I'm sawing logs at that time. There's no way I can get these, the things I used to say.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 months ago, I just said, I'm becoming an early bird. Starting tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up at 4:30. And I did. I started getting up at 4:30. And it's been 5 months of it. And I really, I hop right out of bed. The alarm goes off and I literally hop up. Of course, I put the alarm far enough away that I have to. And, but I get up and it's like, I don't know. I just really don't know who I'm going to be in the future, but I do know that I'm going to be living my purpose. I know that.
Does your husband wake up at that time now too, or he kind of
Nope.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this morning he got up at, I think it was about 7 or so that he got up. Yeah.
I love everything that you're saying, because basically when you're saying, if you would have asked me the same question 6 months ago, it would have been different. That's real perspective, right? So even when we film these episodes, it's like a little time capsule of who you are right now, right? Maybe you'll have different answers. And so I think people need to absorb that just for a second. Like, if you're really on this path of personal development that's lifelong, right? Not stagnant after a certain goal, you're always going to be chasing a moving target. And that target, like you're saying, is your purpose. But when you change, it's kind of like your questions start answering themselves and they start pointing you closer to what you need. Because really, your purpose is not based on any sort of knowledge. It's based on your principles. And so as your principles get sharpened, naturally, the answers or the solutions are going to open themselves up. I think the really good benefit about having a life coach is that I think they teach you how to ask the right questions for yourself, right? Like you've done a tremendous job even after you have kind of stopped those services with her or him. Was it a him or her?
Her, yeah.
Okay. And so now I feel like you're so inquisitive, you're so introspective, and maybe you didn't have that before. Would you say? You have about 2 minutes.
100%. Yes. And what's interesting that you say that is during my year of fears, so I'm facing a fear every day, right? I met my mentor in March of that year, 2015. And then after about knowing him for about 3 or 4 months, I used to go to his office because I just wanted to hang around positive people because I wasn't used to that. In corporate world, you don't get a whole lot of positive people. So, I would hang out in his office, and one day we were talking, he's like, hey, I'm working on this book called The Footsteps of the Fearless. You're facing a fear every day. I think it'd be a perfect book for you. And I was like, oh my God, that's a great idea. So I signed up to be in his book called Footsteps of the Fearless. And so I'm one of the authors, the co-authors inside of that book. And then after I was done facing my fear every single day for a year, my mentor again steps in and he says, hey, you just faced a fear every day. That's awesome. Wow, cool. What are you going to do about it? And I said, what do you mean? What am I going to do about it? I just faced a fear every day. Don't you think that's enough? And he's like, well, you need to do something about it. You should write a book. You should write a book and tell your story, because there's going to be a lot of people out there. Everybody has fears. There's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to be able to read your book and learn something about how they can break through their fears. I was like, okay, I'll write a book about it. So I wrote a book called The Year of Fears. So then that book was done. And just like you mentioned, questions, I asked myself this question: what's the next natural progression for me? I was in a book. I wrote a book. I need to write collaboration books myself. So that's really what led me. It was my inquisitiveness of myself. And just like you said, my life coach taught me how to ask questions of myself. And it was that inquisitiveness that brought me to what I'm doing today. Writing the collaboration books is a huge part of my business. And this is because part of my purpose is to share other people's stories, but not really to share their stories, is to help them to share their story.
Was that the end? Should we
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
I made it. In the time.
Yay. Okay, cool. I was like, come on, Lynda, you can do it.
I did it. I did it.
Okay,
Yay.
okay, cool. So final question. It's a lot of really good stuff that you're saying. So if you want to kind of boil it down to bullet point form, I would say, what is the main advice that you would give to somebody? How can listeners avoid clocking out?
Okay. And did you say sinners? How did
No.
the who can avoid clocking out?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we got lost in translation, or maybe I misspoke. But basically, what's the central advice that you would give to our audience, and how can they avoid clocking out of their dreams, of their goal setting, of everything?
Okay.
Mhm.
It's funny. I think said, how can the sinners avoid clocking out? I was like, that's kind of an interesting way to say. But
Sorry.
okay. So what I would say, first of all, is to know who you are and to discover who you are. And, it's interesting because we talk about, personalities, who we are, what we're all about, and all this stuff. But oftentimes, if we look back into our past, again, when I was 5 years old, I ran away and was gone a week, right? That's a long time for a 5-year-old to run away. But I never thought about it. I never equated that to how strong and brave I was. I never thought of it that way until many years later when I was actually having a conversation with Les Brown, who is an amazing man, by the way.
Mhm.
And he was like, whoa, look how brave you were. And I was like, I never thought of it that way. So oftentimes who we are really is that person we used to be, but we've lost our way somehow. I like to say, all of us were born with this brilliance inside of us, but some people just take the wrong path.
Mhm.
Some never get back on the right path, and some do. Now, I'm one of those who happened to come back on the right path, but it took till I was 51 years old. Do I have regrets about it? No, no regrets at all.
Yeah, I feel like people say the phrase finding yourself a lot, but I feel like that's not as accurate. It's coming back to yourself, like you're saying, because I feel like if you take care of what I like to call the inner child, that's who you are. Like everything you liked, every form of being, your mannerisms, your hope, it's who you were before maybe all of this innocence was lost and before we learned the social conventions that we were
Yeah.
placed on and inherited. But yeah, that's the way to do it. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's like remembering, right? It's like I'm remembering who I used to be. So what I do now is when I face situations that are not as comfortable, for me, I'll tap back into that, my little Lynda, she's my little Lynda. I'll
Hmm.
tap back into her and I will bring her into my present. That strong, brave little girl who didn't care what anybody thought about her running away at 5 years old, just knew one thing. She didn't like where she was and she wasn't going to do that anymore. So I'll bring her back into my present and I'll say, okay, do it, just do it. And it really gives me that strength and that courage to keep moving forward. So, it's an interesting, journey that we're on here. And I was 51 years old when I
Hmm.
got started on my journey. So I like to say I'm 6 years old, it's like I started all over again and just kind of going through this, this personal development journey of, rediscovering who I was and living as that person today, and hopefully I'm making some kind of positive impact on this planet on the journey, because that's like I declared this 6 years ago, my own personal mission. So this is my own personal mission for me for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
And the reason I created this mission is when my mom, so my mom was with my dad for 55 years and he was
Oh,
abusive for 55 years. The first thing my mom said when my dad passed away, my whole family, we were in the hospital room and my dad had had many heart attacks that morning. He was on a pacemaker, so the pacemaker kept him alive. And my mom had to make a decision to turn off his pacemaker. And so we're all standing there and it's me, my mom and my husband are standing all next to each other.
hmm.
And my dad took his last breath and my mom said, and I kid you not, these are the first words she said, "Thank God the bastard is dead." Those were her first words after 55 years of being with him. So what happened was, after that, my husband and I ended up moving in with my mom to take care of her because she was, a little sick her last 3 years of her life.
Hmm.
And 2 weeks before she died, She said, you know, Lynda, I've lived my life with so many regrets. You make sure that you live your life with no regrets. And that was, you know, probably about almost 10 years ago that she passed away. So I started living that mantra, you know, doing things, living my life with no regrets. And so in 2015, when I was facing those fears every day, I came up with my own personal life mission. And that is that I want to spend the rest of my life having as much fun as possible, hanging out with positive and uplifting people who are making a positive impact on the planet. And I made that declaration almost 6 years ago. And guess what started happening? The negative people in my life kind of just started falling off. It wasn't conscious decision for me. They
Mhm.
just kind of started falling off. And I started attracting to me more positive people. I started attracting that into my life. My name, Lynda Sunshine West. Sunshine isn't my given name, but it's the name that was given to me by people in this last 6 years
Wow.
because of this journey I've been on. So it's like, whoa, you have to come from that dark place of like, why am I here? What's the purpose of this whole planet? How do I fit in? I don't have any value, to being this person who is now confident, strong. I attract amazing people into my life, and they're attracting me to their life to become this confident person. It's just like my whole entire life and who I am and who I'm being. I'm just being me. I'm just being me, but I'm becoming a greater me every day.
Yeah, and I love that we got to talk because I feel like I have listeners that are maybe 45 plus and they need to hear from somebody that's in their age range, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, what a testimony, Lynda, and I'm super, super happy. Do you want to add anything? Because you would technically be done and you would beat that question too.
Okay. Okay. So the last thing I would add is, just to touch on that point, you are never too old to start. And I'll share really quickly. There's this woman that I used to work with. I worked with her and she was age 82. At age 82, she had been widowed for 25 years. She met this man at church and he was 85. And he kept on trying to court her, like take her out to coffee and stuff. And she was like, no, 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 no. She didn't want to go out on any dates. So finally she gave in and they went out on a date. They met for coffee and then they went on another date. Then they went on another date and then they went on a cruise together. He took her on a cruise and then they got married. She was 83 years old when she got remarried after having been widowed for 26 years by that time. And she fell in love. You are never too old to start. Don't stop living your life because of your age, because you are stopping your life because of your age. It's you. Nothing else is happening.
Ah, I love this. Okay, so if we look at how you did, Lynda, we're officially over with the interview portion. Now we look and we
Okay.
reflect. So you got 2 and 2. So the clock didn't beat you. Good. So it's like a draw. What was that like for you?
Well, it was fun, trying to, I didn't have a timer set up. So it's like, I'm trying to say what I want to say, but also hopefully saying what somebody needs to hear. And that's the thing, is like, I know like these podcasts and these episodes and things, it's like, what kind of value are we bringing to the audience? And so I'm hoping that I was able to do that in that shorter, the timed period of time.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to at all kind of interrupt. Yes, just a little kind of affirmation or a little cue that I'm paying attention, but you had so much to say, Lynda, that I just wanted you to eat up all the time. And it's okay that we went over because I feel like, yes, you definitely brought your A game. You brought a lot of value. And honestly, if we would just extend the interview a little bit more, I'm sure you could. I don't know. I felt like I was watching like a motivational speech, to be honest, and that's really something that speaks volumes to the kind of life you live, to the kind of progress you've made. And I just want to say on air that I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It really has been, just this amazing journey. And, my purpose, is to inspire and motivate people to take action. Like I created, my program is called Women Action Takers. I have Women Action Takers publishing and podcasts. Like everything is Women Action Takers, because we can hope, pray, dream, desire, want all we want. But when
Mhm.
it's standing in front of us, because oftentimes the thing you're asking for is standing right in front of you, but you don't see it. You don't grab it. You don't take that action. It's nothing happens without action. So it's really been important for me to make sure that I'm living the life that I'm talking about, taking action on a regular basis and making things happen in my life so that I can live the life I truly want to live. And that's what I hope for other people as well.
Yeah, yesterday I attended the first day of a 3-day event. It's called the Thrive Virtual Event. Normally it's in person, now it's virtual, you know how it goes. But Eric Thomas, who's a motivational speaker, he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about the importance of action. And he was saying, ideas are great. And he's like, innovation is rewarded, but execution is worshipped. And I
That's
mean,
good.
that's true. The people that we admire and the people that we really want to emulate are people of action. So I think you're 100% correct. Lynda, is there any place where you want to kind of plug that they can reach out to you and get in touch with you if they need to?
Yeah, definitely. They can email me. Let's do the email route because I'm in the process of updating my website and stuff. But it's Lynda, Lynda, at womenactiontakers.com. You can still go to my website, Women Action Takers, check it out. Like I said, it's being revamped right now. But, there's always some kind of movement happening as like the dogs, just told you, there's always some kind of movement happening in life. We just keep moving forward, and live the life you want to live so that when you get to the end of your life, you do have no regrets.
I agree. And that's why I named this Beat the Clock, because when I talk about a clock, I'm talking about like your little ticker right here, the reminder that we're alive. And there's going to be a point where we die. And that's not a pleasant thing that people want to hear, but it's inevitable, So are
Yeah.
you going to beat the clock and stop wasting time and move and do things that you love? And even if it's small, right? Like even if it's finding the best cookie recipe and that's what's going to set your soul on fire, do it, beat the clock and actually get it done. Stop journaling about it. That's great. I love journaling. I do it. But, move at some point and go out there and beat it.
Yep. Stop letting your fear get in your way. The last book I just launched is called Momentum, 13 Lessons from Action Takers Who Changed the World. Again, there's that word action taker, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, the thing is that this book about momentum. So sometimes momentum is fast and furious, but sometimes momentum is just like one little step. Because if you think about like a train, for example, when it's on a track and it comes to that point where it's called the switch, where it's going to stop going straight and maybe it's going to go to the left a little bit, it
Mm-hmm.
has this little switch point. And the very, very beginning of the switch, they're really, really close to each other. They're like, millimeters to each other. And then next thing you know, they're a mile apart, 2 miles apart, 50 miles, 200 miles apart. That same track that started together is now split. And this is what happens is when we make that really small change in our life, that's when things start to move. So whether you made a big progress that day or you made just a little bit of progress today, pat yourself on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Pat yourself on the back because nobody else is going to do it for you. This is where you become your own best cheerleader rather than your own worst enemy. Stop being your own worst enemy, become your own best cheerleader. This way you can motivate yourself. Self-motivation is better than any other type of motivation on this planet because you are always with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lynda, some good stuff. So, wow. Thank you so much for your time. I know you got something going in a little bit, and I just want to say that you are exactly what Beat the Clock needs. And I don't know if there's going to be a point where we can hop on again, but man, like,
I hope so.
I love your energy. Yeah. And so we're clocking out here, guys, but don't clock out in your own life. Thank you.
Bye-bye.